Hello, this is Curtis, and welcome to my channel, Empire Building. I wanted to make a video about my recent experience with Tesla. I began buying into this position earlier this year once I saw that the direction the stock was taking did not seem to align itself with the truly awesome potential that this company so obviously had going for it. I consider myself a value investor, so I had no problem buying into a company only to see the price continue to decline. Looking back, it is obvious that I could have been more patient with my entries. I'm still a young investor, and that is why I decided to create this channel, to document my journey to build my empire. My goal is to be as open and honest about my successes and my failures. That way, I'm sure to learn from them and share those lessons with you. Getting back to Tesla, on the way down, I broke the obvious rule of investing 100% of my investing account into this stock.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
But I remained convinced that sooner or later, all the fear and doubt that was being spread about the company would fade, and the strength of what was at the foundation would become as obvious to the rest of the market as it was to me. By this time, the price had dropped down to a level Tesla had first reached back in September of 2013. At that time, the total number of vehicles delivered was 5,500 for the third quarter of that year. Compare that with 63,000 units for the first quarter of 2017 that Tesla had just reported prior to this drop in the stock price. I could go through point by point why I knew there was a massive recovery just around the corner, but that could take up another whole video, and no one needs me to tell them everything they already know. After my final purchase, around $200 a share, I was sitting with a cost basis of $252 per share. Now, all I could do was wait.
So we keep waiting on the world to change.
I turned a profit just before the second quarter conference call, which I could have sold prior and lowered my cost basis further, but no.
Damn!
Fear began to set in that Tesla may now trade within a new, lower range, and I found myself with more anxiety over having all of my funds locked up in one company. So I took a small loss and unloaded half my position.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
When it came time for the next conference call, I again found myself in a profit with my remaining shares, and I'm not going to lie. The thought to sell some prior to the call had crossed my mind, but I resisted the urge, and we all know what happened next. I held, and then came the Cybertruck unveiling.
Franz, could you try to break this glass, please?
Sure?
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, maybe that was a little too hard.
Once I saw this, I gave in to my fear that the shorts would take control of the narrative and push the stock lower. I was sitting on gains of 40%, and I decided I did not want to give that up. I respect the idea of holding for the long term, despite the rapid movement of the price up and down. But I also look at the price movement of Tesla since its inception, and this stock moves violently within ranges for extended periods of time. Obviously, I wish I had the nerve to hold my entire position that I had acquired all the way to these highs. I would have twice the balance I have now in my account. I miss holding my Tesla shares, but looking at the environment around the stock price now feels a lot like it did for the bears when the stock was falling. Everybody wanted to talk about how bad it was for Tesla, and they kept calling for lower and lower prices and becoming bolder and bolder with their positions and their attitude towards the stock and the company.
But getting back to Tesla, we've been short Tesla since the low 300s. And, you know, we believe the company is going to have to restructure. And I said with this the last time I was on with you, Shri, you know, we believe the company is going to be zeroed out. It's going to be worthless as far as the equity is concerned. They have very poor management. Elon Musk is not a genius. He's not a visionary. He's a charlatan. He's a carnival barker. He cannot replace any of the massive amounts of management that are leaving the company. Number two, they have a toxic balance sheet. And while they were able to pull off a recent secondary, that secondary was done at $242. And the shares are right now $179. If you look at the product that Tesla is actually making now, this Model 3, it is absolute garbage. This is not the S and it's not the X. That's the old Tesla. This new Tesla is being thrown together by hand in a tent. You can't go through a car wash. These things are blowing up all the time. The batteries are incinerating. It is not a quality product. And finally, if you look at the last 16 years of Tesla, they have never made a profit in 16 years. The couple quarters that they did show a profit was simply because they stuck it to their largest supplier, Panasonic. They didn't pay them. They've got accounts payable of $4 billion. So, again, we think Tesla's at zero. That's why it's our favorite short. And there's a lot of other opportunities in the market.
Now, we're seeing the reverse take place. Bulls are calling for higher and higher price targets, and it's the bulls that just can't help themselves from taking their pound of flesh from the bears.
We see this nice record number here, but it looks like you don't think this is going to last. What do you think of Tesla?
Yeah, so it's a tough day to be a bear with the stock at new highs, right? But the reality is, you know, Tesla's trading on hopes and dreams right now. And, you know, I'm not a weather vane. I'm an analyst. My job is to break out the calculator. We're going to see decelerating growth. The expectations from the bulls around China are far too high. And, you know, competition is coming that's real. So, yes, China is going to be a great market for them. But I think the number for 2020 is more like 50,000 units, not 150,000 units. And I think that things are getting pretty frothy up here. It really does deserve to be a $250 stock.
Ross, in your view, why has it done so well of late?
Well, I think everything that Craig said is demonstrably false. I don't know where he gets his numbers. He probably pulls them out of his weather vane because he's 100% wrong so far. First of all, sales are going to go up by 40 to 50% next year because China is coming online and is coming on faster than what anybody thought.
Ross, you can't say someone is demonstrably wrong about a forecast for next year. You don't demonstrably know
okay, well,
you're right.
Put me on in a year. Put me on in a year and we'll see.
Fine. You might end up being right, but you can't be guaranteed to suggest you are right at this stage.
I don't offer guarantees. I just offer past performance. And I've been pretty clear about this company. I know more about this company than any analyst on the street, and that's been proven correct. I know what's happening in China. This person does not. And what is happening is amazing. So we've got a car with much higher margins selling to a much bigger market of people who love Elon Musk and love Tesla. And what we're seeing is a much more efficient factory producing at a much lower cost. So this is a huge gold mine potential for Tesla over the next decade to be the leading EV seller in the Chinese market. And I think discounting that would be one of the biggest mistakes an investor could make.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
Deserve it as they may, I know they will be back. When they are, we will know what the upper limit is for the next channel that the stock will trade in for the next leg. Finally, you have to ask yourself, who is it that is buying the stock at these prices? What kind of investor is buying today at all-time highs? I would suggest that it is primarily the FOMO crowd. Sooner or later, the trend will reverse, and when it does, the bears will find something to sink their teeth into and try to take over the narrative. This is a battleground stock, and eventually the buyers will run out of momentum and the other side will jump in, and they already have plenty of ammo to use against the price of the stock. That's it for this time. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did you sell too early? Did you buy back in? How high do you think the stock will go? I'll see you next time. Now let's get back to empire building.